Maya, the Queen of Thieves, Chapter 4.
Did you get it?
Maya heard a cheerful voice ask as she stepped through the door. She spotted her stepmother cutting up vegetables to put in stew. Maya smiled at her.
Yes!
Oh, congratulations, dear.
She rushed over and swiped Maya up in a hug.
Thank you, Mother.
Maya hugged her back.
When do you start?
Her father sat at the foot of the table.
Tomorrow morning at 8.
Maya greeted him with a kiss on the cheek.
I'm so proud of you.
Maya's stepmother gave her a gentle squeeze on the shoulder as she walked by and went back to her stew.
Dinner will be ready shortly. Henry, you're going to spoil your supper.
She snapped at Maya's eldest brother.
Aw, come on, Ma. I'm hungry.
He whined, putting the cookie back with the other cookies on a platter.
How much longer till dinner, Abby?
Maya's father asked.
Just a few more minutes.
She quickly stirred the stew.
Henry, help your sister set the table.
Who will you be staying with?
Maya's father looked up at her.
Matilda. She is the owner.
Maya placed her empty bag on the counter.
Did you see Prince Seth?
Her 7-year-old sister ran up and clung to her dress. Maya turned and patted her on the head.
I did.
Her sister squealed in delight.
Emily, come and sit at the table. Dinner is ready.
Abby grabbed a bowl and filled it up with stew. Maya guided Emily to a chair at the table.
Tell him I said hi.
Maya smiled and kissed her on the head.
I will.
She moved over to Abby to help pass out the bowls of stew.
How much are you getting paid, dear?
A copper a day.
Maya placed a bowl of stew in front of Will.
Seems fair.
Her father took a sip of the stew.
Angus, you're just as bad as the kids. We need to say our prayers first.
Abby scolded her husband.
Sorry, darling. It looked too good. I couldn't resist.
He smiled up at her as she kissed him while laying a loaf of bread on the table.
Yuck!
Henry scrunched his face in disgust.
You better behave, young man. Otherwise, no dessert.
Abby pointed a knife at Henry and started cutting the loaf of bread.
Yes, Mother.
Henry solemnly watched her cut the bread.
How long will you be gone, sis?
Henry snuck a bite of bread.
The internship should last roughly 6 months.
She sat in an empty chair beside him.
Whoa, that's a really long time.
Her other sister looked down at her bread solemnly.
Don't worry, Mary.
She reassured her.
I can always come back and annoy you anytime. It's only a 2-hour walk.
I'll take the carriage and drop you off tomorrow.
Angus stared at her, nodding.
Thanks, Father.
She smiled gratefully.
Now, let's pray.
Abby sat down after slicing all the bread. Maya felt a little gloomy, realizing this would be the last time she would eat dinner with her family for a while. She was going to miss them. She watched everyone as they ate and quietly listened to the dinner conversation. Henry was bragging about how he almost got a bullseye shooting his bow and arrow at a target on a tree earlier that day. Will pouted, complaining Henry didn't play with him much that day. Maya smiled fondly at the scenery, trying to treasure every moment. Later that evening, Maya packed everything she needed into her storage trunk and went to bed with her sisters. Abby and Angus were waiting for Maya in the kitchen early the following morning. Everyone else was still asleep. Abby fixed Maya and Angus breakfast before they headed out on the carriage. Angus quietly placed Maya's chest on the carriage.
Make us proud, dear.
Abby gathered Maya up in her arms. Maya fought back a tear and fondly smiled at her mother. She was going to miss everyone. Angus helped Maya in the front seat.
I'll be back in a while, darling.
Angus nodded at Abby.
I'll have more breakfast ready for you when you return. Don't be a stranger, dear. We will miss you.
Abby waved, watching them exit the village. The journey ride to Zarth was mostly quiet. The path was dark, and there was a light breeze in the air.
You can come home if you run into any trouble.
Her father glanced sideways at her. Maya nodded her head.
Be careful of that Prince Zeth. He doesn't have the best reputation.
Angus nodded his head at Maya so she understood the gesture.
Dad, ew, I know.
Maya looked away disgustingly. The last thing she wanted to do was have a sex talk with her father.
I'm just saying be careful of the lads out there. They don't always have the best intentions. They will do whatever they can to charm you.
Okay, Dad. Abby had this conversation with me when I was 13 years old.
She interrupted before he could say another word.
Can we talk about something else? Anything else?
She glanced at Angus and quickly looked away.
I'm not going to see you for a while, and this is not the type of conversation I would like to end with.
And you think I do? I'm your father. I'm supposed to worry. That is part of the job. I want you to be safe.
He glanced down at Maya, who was staring off into the distance. Angus took a deep breath in and out.
Do you have enough copper to get you through the week at least?
I should be fine. Matilda is giving me room and board. Mother packed me some more apples, jerky, and bread.
Maya watched the horse pulling the carriage.
I want you to have this.
Angus placed a coin bag in Maya's hand. Maya opened it and saw 20 copper coins.
No, this is too much.
It is for emergencies. You're out on your own there. This should be more than enough to get a carriage ride home or buy a nice dress.
Father, I'm the apprentice for a seamstress. I won't need to buy clothes.
Just take it to give your old man a peace of mind. Whatever you don't use, you can return later if you want. You can buy a pan and keep it under your pillow at night.
Suggested, nodding at the idea.
What am I going to do with a frying pan? Hit a rat in the middle of the night? Yes, very dangerous. That rat had a knife. I'm so glad I had a pan to protect me.
Promise you will buy some sort of protection for yourself against strangers, thieves, robbers, uncharacteristic men, and, you know...
He glanced down at her.
Again with this talk. Will you stop talking about men if I promise to buy something for protection in the marketplace?
Maya gave her dad a distasteful look and stared straight ahead.
Yes, that's all I want.
Angus seemed relieved.
Okay, good. I'll find something later today to buy.
She let out a breath, thankful the conversation ended. They sat silently for a while as the horse continued pulling the wagon.
You know, we are all going to miss you.
Her father disrupted the silence.
I'm gonna miss you guys too.
Maya could feel herself holding back tears.
Make sure you'll be home for Christmas.
Angus gave her a sideways glance.
Of course I'll be home for Christmas. I'll want to be with my family.
Maya smiled up at him. They sat quietly for the rest of the trip, enjoying the scenery as dawn approached. Angus and Maya arrived at Zarth as the sun rose. Matilda was up and making breakfast.
I figured you'd arrive early.
She smiled, walking out her front door. Maya smiled at Matilda as she jumped down from the wagon.
Matilda, this is my father Angus.
Matilda shook his hand.
Nice to meet you, Angus.
She smiled up at him.
Thank you for taking care of my daughter, Matilda.
He nodded his head in thanks.
I have a feeling Maya is going to be a great apprentice.
She opened the front door for Maya and Angus.
Are you both hungry? I made some eggs, bacon, and pancakes.
Oh no, I better be heading out. The wife is waiting for my return.
He carried Maya's wooden chest to the front door.
Maya's room is upstairs, first door on the left.
She directed Angus up the stairs.
You can leave it in there.
Maya listened to her father grunt as he lowered the trunk in the room above.
All right, Maya.
Her father walked down the stairs.
You be good and listen to everything Matilda says. Make your mother and me proud.
He walked over and kissed Maya on the head.
I will.
Maya smiled up at him and hugged him.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Matilda.
He shook her hand.
Ride back safely.
She nodded up at Angus. Both Matilda and Maya watched Angus climb on the wagon and head off. They watched quietly as Angus disappeared from sight.
Shall we eat some breakfast?
Matilda gestured Maya inside to sit at the table.
I hope you're hungry.
Maya smiled at Matilda as she sat in a chair nervously.
Do you want bacon, eggs, and pancakes?
Matilda stared at her with a plate in hand.
Pancakes and eggs are fine, thank you.
Maya watched Matilda dish up 2 plates. Matilda placed a plate in front of Maya and sat next to her.
Are you nervous?
Matilda glanced at Maya while picking up a fork and grabbing some eggs.
Yes, a little.
Maya summoned a smile and cut a piece of her pancake.
You have nothing to be nervous about. I am strict but not unreasonable.
She grabbed a slice of bacon and took a bite.
My last apprentice was arrogant.
She waved the bacon in the air.
He did not have a passion for drafting, not in the way one should anyways.
She finished off the bacon in her hand.
Listen, Maya. Here is rule number 1 for drafting in my shop. We do not make anything from peaswans. No peaswan feathers, no symbols or shapes of peaswans, no hints of peaswans whatsoever. You will not step foot in my shop ever again if you make anything with or resembling a peaswan.
Matilda stared sternly at Maya. Maya nodded her head, slowly agreeing.
Our prince has disgraced the beautiful bird with his adulterate behavior. This is not the way a prince should behave. He has been known to bed women wearing peaswan brooches. His servants travel the world in search of the most beautiful women who agree to wear a peaswan attire and share a bed with him for an evening. A maiden would be known as a whore with such distasteful behavior. However, he is our future king and can do whatever he pleases.
Matilda had a bitter expression on her face.
How come the king and queen don't do anything about this?
Maya questioned. Matilda swallowed a mouthful of eggs.
They don't know. Prince Zeth is very good at keeping his sinful behavior discreet. His servants carefully pick out the women he beds, usually from other countries. Only a few townspeople suspect his behavior. Everyone here loves Prince Zeth, even the people who suspect or know of his sinful behavior. However, he is becoming more sloppy and less discreet. This unruly behavior will catch up with him if he is not more careful. He will be a great king someday. Hopefully he can find a queen who will diminish his devilish desires.
Maya solemnly took the last bite of her scrambled eggs.
Maya, this must remain between you and me. Understand?
Matilda intently stared into Maya's eyes.
Yes, ma'am.
Maya nodded her head slowly.
My last apprentice held auditions behind my back for actresses to bed the prince. Prince Zeth wanted his servants to look for actresses to role-play with his fetishes. He's still looking for actresses now. My apprentice learned about Prince Zeth's order and took advantage of the women, his status, and his drapery gift to bed them. In return for sleeping with him, my apprentice would give them peaswan attire, a bracelet, brooch, ring, hair decoration, anything resembling a peaswan. I kicked him out as soon as I noticed. My shop doesn't need that type of reputation. My servant, the man you met yesterday, and I are the only ones who knew what my apprentice had done. No one else who works here knows except for him, myself, and now you. The townspeople think I'm a cranky old woman getting rid of my apprentice due to pickiness. The kingdom doesn't know what really happened, and I don't want them to.
She stared intently at Maya.
I understand.
Maya solemnly stared down at her empty plate.
I promise I won't tell anyone.
Just be careful with Prince Zeth.
Matilda grabbed the 2 dirty plates and utensils.
Prince Zeth is a good lad, but he cannot control his lust.
She walked over to the sink and started cleaning the dishes.
Great. I'm supposed to meet Prince Zeth in a couple hours. I don't want to go anymore.
I'm not as stern as everyone thinks I am, Maya. I will push you to do your very best.
Matilda continued cleaning the dishes.
However, I feel like I must warn you about the prince's behavior. The queen has asked us to create their gowns for the upcoming ball in 8 weeks. I don't want you to end up like the girls who slept with him. You are his perfect type, Maya. He beds women very similar looking to you. Sleeping with him will ruin your reputation.
Thank you for the warning.
Maya looked up at Matilda, who was drying off her hands with a cloth.
Enough talk about our prince.
Matilda tossed the rag on top of the counter.
Let me show you around.
Maya stood up from her chair and followed Matilda into another room.
Down that hallway at the very end is the water closet.
You have a water closet?
Maya exclaimed.
Yes, No need for chamber pots in this kingdom, Maya. The queen outlawed them. She is very big on cleanliness. There are public water closets in the marketplace if you ever need to use one.
Maya was mesmerized.
The private bath is across from that.
Matilda nodded.
Whoa!
Maya was mesmerized.
Go and have a look if you want.
Matilda encouraged Maya. Maya slowly walked down the small hall to the bathing area. Inside was a little wooden container with soap and a sponge on the side. A string with a long rectangular piece of wood was directly above the bath. There was a fireplace next to the container and a chair on the other side of the room. Across the hall from the bathing room sat a water closet. There was a small stand in front of the water closet which held a few leaves, a small bucket filled with water and chopped lemons, and a bucket of only lemons.
And down this way is our workroom.
Matilda disappeared around a corner. Maya hurried to follow. Next to the kitchen was a big drapery room with 3 large tables, 6 chairs, a window with jars on the windowsill, and a very impressive bookcase with tons of fabrics held in each shelf. A folding screen laid collapsed against a corner of the room next to a drawer, and a full-length mirror. On top of the chest of drawers were sewing tools. Matilda stood next to the fireplace staring at Maya. She walked over to the nearest table which had leather material on it. She picked up a drawing next to the leather.
For your first assignment, I would like you to make a coin purse out of this leather.
Matilda stared at Maya.
You can add any decorations you would like or keep it plain. Whatever inspires you.
Maya walked over to the table looking at the drawing.
I will give you 5 days to complete this task. That should give you enough time to settle in and get the task done. We need to see what we have to work with. This will also help me figure out what level you are at with draping.
Yes, ma'am.
Maya nodded, picking up and feeling the leather.
You can use any tools you wish in this room. I ask you to put the tools back in the same place where you found them when you're done.
Matilda walked over to a dresser with sewing utensils on top.
This is where we store our sewing supplies. Everything is organized in each drawer. The fabrics on the very top shelf are not to be touched. Everything else is usable for any design we create.
Matilda nodded at the bookshelf.
Do you have any questions, Maya?
Matilda walked up to her.
No, ma'am.
Maya nodded her head.
Well, don't be afraid to ask for anything. We are a team here and we help one another out. I will introduce you to everyone Monday. We have taken a few days off from a recent large project completed earlier this week.
Matilda walked to the kitchen.
Make yourself at home, Maya. This is where you will be living for a while.
Thank you, Matilda.
Maya nodded as Matilda disappeared around the corner. Maya took a long look around the room before heading upstairs to her chamber. Her room was dark and small. There was a bed, a small desk with a chair and a dresser next to a wall. The desk had a small clock on top. The short hand was on the 11. The long arm was on the 15-minute mark. She quickly walked across the room to open curtains. The room instantly brightened as she opened them. She could see the marketplace below. The water and fruit merchant had customers waiting to buy their output. Maya turned around and spotted a cloth covering a piece of furniture. She gently pulled the cloth off and revealed a full-length-sized mirror underneath. The mirror was gold and decorated with a piezwan at the top, with long feathers extending to the bottom of the mirror. A letter fell to the ground as Maya pulled the cloth off. She picked it up and read the note.
I can't wait to see you, Prince Zeth.
Maya quickly put the cloth back over the mirror and hid the letter in the desk drawer. She stared a few seconds at the cloth in disbelief.
What is that doing here? Does Matilda know? She must. Otherwise, why was a cloth over it? Why didn't she tell me or warn me about the mirror?
Maya stood a bit longer, puzzled and confused. Slowly, she moved to her case near the door and began unpacking. The piezwan brooch fell to the ground as she unpacked a dress. She picked the brooch up and stared.
I need to avoid the prince. He is dangerous. No,
Another tiny voice interjected.
he will turn me into a whore, and I'll be known as nothing more. But Prince Zeth has been nothing but kind to us.
A tiny voice argued.
No, he only wants one thing. He cannot have it. It will ruin me. One moment's pleasure for a lifetime of hell.
Another voice interjected.
I am not going to meet him at noon.
She firmly decided. She stood up and placed the Piswan brooch in the back of the desk drawer and continued unpacking. Maya glanced at the clock, which read 12:30.
There is no going back now. I have missed meeting with the prince.
A small part of her seemed relieved, and a tiny part of her was disappointed.
But I really liked Prince Seth. It's for the best,
she told the disappointed voice. Maya grabbed her coin purse and walked to the market. The market was very busy. Maya slowly walked past each stand, trying to get familiar with the order of the marketplace.
Maya,
she heard a familiar voice.
I thought you would be with Prince Seth.
Elizabeth walked up to her and gave her a welcoming hug.
No.
Maya shifted uncomfortably in her shoes.
Come help me shop.
Elizabeth cheerfully locked arms with Maya, and they started walking to another stand.
Come in, love,
Elizabeth shouted behind her. Maya glanced back and saw Jacob hauling a ton of bags on both arms.
Yes, dearest. Maybe we should drop this stuff off first, before continuing with our shopping.
He almost fell to the ground.
Hey, Maya.
He grunted, holding his balance while spotting her.
Do you need help?
Maya asked, continuing to look back at him.
Oh no, he's fine.
Elizabeth patted Maya's arm.
This is the last stop, love. I promise.
They stopped in front of a flower shop.
I'd like to buy 100 pounds of flour.
100 pounds?
Jacob exclaimed, dropping all the bags on the ground.
Sweetheart, I am strong but not Hercules. We need to go back and drop this off.
Nonsense.
Elizabeth waved her hand at him.
Maya and I can help carry bags back.
Maya.
Prince Seth quickly walked up to her.
Where have you been? I have been waiting for you for an hour.
Maya slowly stared up into Prince Seth's face. She could feel her heart racing. She glanced down at her feet.
She's been helping me shop.
Elizabeth wrapped an arm around her.
You have impeccable timing, Zeth.
Jacob placed his hands on his knees, panting.
You can help us carry this stuff back.
Here you go, miss.
The flour merchant placed 8 bags of flour onto the counter.
Here, Maya.
Elizabeth handed her 2 bags of flour. She quickly walked over to Jacob and took a bag from his pile while lovingly patting him on the face. She came back and picked up 2 flour bags.
Zeth, you can carry the rest.
She nodded at the 4 remaining bags on the counter.
Hey! How about taking a bag or 2 over here?
Jacob was still hunched over, panting.
Yeah.
Prince Zeth walked over and took 3 bags from Jacob. He returned to the counter and grabbed the 4 bags of flour. Elizabeth and Jacob led the way back to their home. Maya solemnly walked next to Prince Zeth.
Maya, why did you not meet me?
Zeth glanced down at her. Maya avoided his stare.
I know you weren't shopping with Elizabeth. I bumped into them right before noon. Why are you avoiding me?
Prince Zeth.
Maya hesitated.
I think you have the wrong impression of me.
Maya embarrassedly looked around, observing the scenery. People were staring at them as they walked.
I am not a whore,
she said very quietly, so only Prince Zeth's ears could hear.
What? I never said you were.
He continued staring at her intently.
Maya, if I left you with that impression, then I am truly sorry.
Maya glanced up at Prince Zeth's concerned look. Her heart skipped a beat as she stared into his dark blue eyes.
God, he is so handsome,
a small voice interjected.
I don't care how handsome he is. He is not having his way with me.
A stronger voice confirmed.
Ah, here we are,
Elizabeth declared, setting the flour on top of the shortcake stand. Jacob grunted as he placed the bags on the counter.
Tell me this, Prince Zeth.
Maya spoke softly while glaring up angrily.
Do you use peace wands as a symbol to see which woman you will bed next?
Look, Maya.
Prince Zeth started.
It is a yes or no question,
Maya said, standing in front of him squarely.
Do you sleep with women who are decorated with peace wand symbols?
Yes.
Prince Zeth started.
The gift you gave me was a mirror decorated with a golden peace wand. What am I supposed to conclude but the fact you think I am a whore? Or you think you can have your way with me?
She disgustingly looked away from Prince Zeth and noticed Elizabeth standing listening to them. Maya could feel heat rising to her cheeks as she embarrassedly stared at the ground.
Is this true, Zeth?
Elizabeth went over and grabbed the 2 flower packages from Maya.
Zeth, you moron.
Jacob shook his head disappointedly.
You don't understand.
Prince Zeth interjected.
Peaswans are gorgeous and delicate creatures, just like maidens. I didn't give you a Peaswan mirror.
He glanced in Maya's direction.
Oh, Zeth!
Elizabeth looked at him disgustingly, setting the flower on the counter.
You bed women who wear Peaswan symbols on their clothing. There is nothing beautiful or delicate about that. You turn those women into whores. Their reputations are ruined.
I'm sorry.
Prince Zeth seemed exasperated as Elizabeth walked to the stand.
And I'm pretty sure I didn't give Maya a Peaswan gift.
You don't remember whether you gave Maya a Peaswan present or not?
Jacob stared at him, unbelieving.
I am sure I didn't give Maya anything, especially after what happened.
Prince Zeth quickly stopped talking.
What happened?
Elizabeth stepped forward aggressively.
You told us you asked to court her and she said she was in love with another. What are you not telling us, Zeth?
Elizabeth had a dangerous look on her face. Prince Zeth held up both his hands.
Whoa! Calm down, Elizabeth.
I'd come clean if I were you, Zeth.
Jacob advised cautiously.
I have seen this look before, and it's scary.
Oh, what did you do?
Elizabeth advanced towards Prince Zeth. Prince Zeth's back was against the wall of the shortcake shop.
It was nothing, Elizabeth. Just a misunderstanding.
Prince Zeth looked extremely worried.
Right, Maya?
He glanced in Maya's direction.
Don't you dare look at her. Answer my question, Zeth.
Elizabeth snapped, her face inches away from his.
One of the few times I escaped my guards.
Prince Zeth muttered. Elizabeth grabbed Prince Zeth by the ear and dragged him up the stairs into the bakery. Maya and Jacob stood quietly and exchanged worried glances. The people who stood and watched went back to their own business.
You did what?
Elizabeth shrieked from inside.
Oh, boy. That doesn't sound good.
Jacob cringed. Maya stood frozen, trying to listen to the conversation inside. A few seconds later, Prince Zeth stepped outside with hunched shoulders. Elizabeth stood from the doorway and watched Prince Zeth closely.
Maya.
Prince Zeth walked up to her while stroking his hair back with his hand.
I am so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you ever again. And here I have.
Maya noticed the right side of his cheek was red, like someone had slapped him hard. He leaned his head against the stand's post and stared straight ahead.
I would never give you a Peaswan gift intentionally. I truly don't remember ordering a Peaswan mirror.
He paused for a moment before continuing.
I don't know what else to say. I didn't mean to treat you with such disrespect. I understand why you are avoiding me. I would avoid me too. Please forgive my rude behavior.
He bowed to her apologetically.
He seems sincere. Prince Zeth has been nothing but a gentleman since the incident. The Peaswan mirror must be a mistake.
Maya slowly walked up to Prince Zeth.
It is hard to stay mad if you are truly sorry.
She leaned on the counter next to him.
Besides, you have done a lot of nice things for me too. The good outweighs the bad. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you. I have a decent future ahead of me as a draper, and you helped me escape from home. I also met Elizabeth and Jacob because of you. I feel very welcomed in this kingdom. Thank you, Your Highness.
She bowed, smiling at Zeth.
I really like this lady.
Elizabeth smiled while holding 2 bags of flour.
Maya, don't forget about tonight's dinner.
She smiled warmly at Maya.
You too, Zeth.
She nodded sternly at him and walked up to the bakery door.
And keep your hands to yourself from now on. Otherwise, I will personally punish you more than I did today.
She glared at Zeth before going through the door.
Right.
Zeth put a hand up to his cheek and ear, slightly rubbing them.
I'd avoid sitting next to Elizabeth at dinner.
Jacob whispered.
This way she has a harder time getting to you.
That was the plan. She can throw something at me instead.
Prince Zeth smiled and paused.
Like a pan.
He paused, staring at the ground.
I deserved this.
See you two tonight?
Jacob chuckled, watching Prince Zeth rub the red area on his face while carrying 6 bags of flour through the door.
Thanks, Maya.
Prince Zeth nodded at her.
I guess I am a pretty great guy.
Zeth gently scratched his chin, pretending to be deep in thought.
With a big ego.
Maya playfully nudged his arm, stepping closer, observing the red marks on his face.
And the slaps to prove it.
Try punches.
Zeth rubbed his red cheek again. Maya hissed, cringing, looking at the red marks.
All joking aside, I can be clueless and stupid sometimes.
I forgive you, Prince Zeth.
Maya was impressed.
No wonder everyone loves you. You don't act like a typical prince. You are very humbled.
She smiled at him as he stood.
Yes, which is why I was punched in the face.
He gave her a sideways glance.
I was extremely humble.
I don't know many princes who can take hits like that.
Maya smiled.
And let a woman punch them. Any other royal would have her head.
You really know how to cheer a guy up.
Prince Zeth stared down at her amusedly.
Wounding a man's pride. Haha, a woman beat you. Thanks, Maya.
Anytime, Majesty.
Maya let out a laugh.
I like you like this. You should get punched more often.
I'll see what I can do tonight at dinner.
Zeth shook his head, smiling.
Anything to please you, Maya.
You could bring a guard or two for protection.
Maya suggested with a grin on her face.
2 guards?
Prince Zeth questioned.
I think I would need an entire army to stop Elizabeth from punishing me. Besides, like I said before, I deserved it.
Maya noticed the sunlight glistening in his hair.
He really is handsome.
A tiny voice seemed mesmerized. She slowly moved her eyes to his face and observed his dark blue eyes wandering off in the distance.
I can escort you back to Matilda's if you will allow me.
Prince Zeth continued staring into the distance.
Actually, I was going to do some shopping.
Maya continued, admiring him. He looked down at Maya. She continued surveying his handsome features without saying a word. Prince Zeth was wearing a V-neck shirt which showed his masculine chest. Maya gazed at his collarbone and slowly traveled up his neck to his eyes. Prince Zeth quietly watched her, ogling him. She embarrassedly turned her head away to break eye contact.
Did he notice me watching so long?
A voice panicked. She could feel heat rising to her cheeks. Prince Zeth took a step closer to her. Maya looked up slowly as Prince Zeth towered over her. Her heart skipped a beat as she stared at his inviting lips. His face was inches from hers. She could smell his cologne. Every part of her electrified as he leaned in close to her.
Is he going to kiss me?
Maya pursed her lips towards his. She closed her eyes. Prince Zeth stopped an inch away from her mouth.
I apologize, Maya.
He whispered softly in her ear. Her head felt like it was light and in the clouds.
We have attracted an audience.
He took 2 steps away from Maya as she noticed a handful of people watching.
How stupid do I look? Of course he wasn't leaning in for a kiss. Elizabeth punched him. He is probably afraid to touch me.
May I accompany you in the marketplace?
He gestured for her to walk ahead of him.
Okay.
She felt lightheaded while leading the way.
Ugh.
A tiny, humiliated voice moaned.
I probably look like such a fool. Everyone saw too.
Maya ignored the stares of the onlookers and fixed her eyes on the ground. Prince Zeth and she left the gatherers and gossipers behind as they walked toward the craftsman merchant's stand.
What can I do for you, miss? Young master?
He bowed, spotting Zeth.
Hi.
Maya smiled up at the merchant.
I would like to buy a skillet, please.
We have a variety over here.
He walked to the corner of his stand where a dozen skillets hung on a wooden wall.
Are you looking for anything in particular?
I promised my dad I would get one.
Maya's voice trailed off.
For cooking?
Zeth asked with a confused look on his face.
To ward off unwanted strangers, thieves, robbers.
Maya exhaled.
And you.
Maya looked directly into Prince Zeth's eyes.
Oh.
Prince Zeth nodded grimly.
So your dad doesn't like me, even though I'm a prince?
My dad doesn't trust you due to your reputation, especially since you are a prince. Elizabeth isn't fond of your reputation either. Or did you already forget?
Maya nodded at his cheek, which was now a faded tint of pink.
What do you think of me?
Prince Szeth stared into her eyes.
I'm still figuring things out.
Maya could feel herself blushing as she looked down at the ground.
Well, you heard the lady.
Szeth opened his arms like he was a target.
Get us the best pan you have so she can hit me with it.
Szeth glanced at Maya.
You can try it out right now, before buying.
Here, try this one.
The merchant held out a skillet to Maya.
Whose side are you on?
Prince Szeth suspiciously glared at the merchant. Maya had a big grin across her face.
I have a daughter of my own.
He playfully yet sternly looked at Prince Szeth.
You don't break the father code when it comes to the safety of his little girl.
He winked at Maya as she grabbed the pan.
Thank you.
Maya gave the merchant a big grin.
Where should I hit him?
She chuckled while taking some practice swings.
I could hit the other cheek so they match in color.
Maya giggled as Prince Szeth unamusedly placed his hands on his hips.
I like it.
Maya had a goofy grin on her face.
How much is it?
2 coppers.
The merchant shook his head, smiling.
I can't believe I'm paying for a skillet to be used to hit me.
Prince Szeth handed the merchant 3 coppers.
Keep the change, sir.
I can buy it, Prince Szeth.
Maya quickly grabbed her coin pouch.
No. It's my pleasure to buy a pan you can hit me with.
Prince Szeth faced her squarely.
This way. You'll always think of me whenever you use it.
I'd think of you anyway, since that's why I was supposed to buy it.
Maya stopped abruptly, realizing what she said. She quickly glanced up at Prince Szeth apologetically.
Great.
He stared at her unimpressed. Szeth broke eye contact with Maya and looked directly at the merchant.
Do you have any armor I can buy to wear while walking her home? Preferably a helmet?
The merchant chuckled.
You be good to her.
He disappeared into the back behind a curtain. Szeth carried the skillet while walking Maya back to Matilda's shop. They stood in front of the door to Matilda's shop.
I'll see you tonight at dinner.
Szeth handed the skillet back to Maya.
Yes.
Maya smiled and took the pan.
I'll see you then. Thank you for walking me home, Prince Szeth.
You're welcome, Maya.
Prince Szeth bowed and walked away. Maya slowly climbed up the stairs, exhausted from the day. She placed the skillet on top of her desk and collapsed on her bed, falling fast asleep.